on this environment, just to give you like a general overview, we're having a Windows machine, which is my own personal machine. And now we are going to check that virtualization is enabled. Then we are going to turn on what is called the hypervisor. In the case of Windows, Hyper-V. So inside of this Hyper-V, we are going to be creating switch, a virtual switch. So this virtual switch is going to stay, and then we are going to build a server, maybe 20 Windows server 2016, Windows Server 2016. And then when we do, we are going to create a machine and then join it. I mean, for the server, we are going to promote it to a domain controller after we've installed the Active Directory domain services role on that machine. And then we'll go ahead to create a computer and then join the computer to the domain, and then we'll go into the domain and then create a user and have the user sign into the machine. So this is practically what we are going to be doing. But one thing that is there is that in between, there are going to be some processes that will take protracted timing. Like you see things loading for maybe like 10 minutes, at some point you see things loading like 5 minutes. Yes, but you just have to be patient. This is a live session. So what that means is that we will not be able to pause and then resume. So we are going to experience it all through. However, while these are going on, there are documentations that we have written that we would like to also bring on the screen and then try to look at it to align that with what we are doing or what we have probably done before that step while we are waiting for the whole system to, you know, um, configure. So that's it for today. I will just quickly show you something, and that's the very beginning of what we want to do. And you have to, in your machine, type in turn for your Windows search. That may not be showing on this other screen. It's on the other screen here. So if you see turn Windows feature on or off, so if you, I'm going to drag that to this screen. And so if you click on that, if you see turn Windows features on or off by searching that from the Windows search this way, right? You are going to see Hyper-V here. So by default, it is not going to be checked. So you just have to check this and then you OK it. And when you OK it, you will need to restart your machine just so you can have the Hyper-V Manager. But while speaking about the option to turn on the Hyper-V, right, there is also a consideration that you need to also put in place, and that is if virtualization is enabled on your machine. So you are going to search for, let me search from here. Hopefully, I'm able to get that. So you search for Task Manager. So if you search for Task Manager, it just opens something like this for you. So if you open this task manager, this actually shows you all the applications that are running on your current, this is my Windows 10 computers, right? And then I have all these here. So what I will do is I will click on performance. So if I click on performance, I will look down below here. If I see this virtualization, if I see it to be enabled, what it means is that I will be able to have the option for Hyper-V, and then I'll be able to turn the check the box behind Hyper-V, and I will be able to see the so after restarting, I'll be able to see the Hyper-V manager. So basically, first thing you do, come to Task Manager, then go to Performance, and then click on CPU, and then come to check up here where you have the virtualization. It should show enabled, but if it is disabled, then you need to go and enable it from the BIOS. Okay. So if this is enabled, then the next thing you want to do is to come here and then search for turn. So once you type turn, you will see turn Windows features on or off. So when you click on that, that's also populating for me on the other screen. Let me do this turn. I think I'm just trying to repeat what I did earlier, right? So you just turn on, you just make sure that you enable the Hyper-V option here, and then you restart, or restart is compulsory before you can see this. So after doing these two things, you search for Hyper-V. So you see Hyper-V Manager. This is it. So ideally, I will advise that you just run it as an administrator. The reason why I'm saying you should run it as an administrator is because if you are an end user to a machine, even if you have created some machines in this place, you may not be able to see um, your machines, all right, until you have to run this as an administrator. So because I've experienced this a couple of times, we have created a machine on created virtual machines on machines that I do not have admin access to that machine, and I cannot see the machines I created there. So why saying machines, I know some persons will be getting a bit confused. So my machine is my physical host, right? Is upon my machine that I want to build some other machines on, right? So that I'll have servers running as my system become the host to those servers, right? So now, if you look at this environment, there are things that you will look at. You see file, you see action, you see view, you see help. Like in any other menu, you can see, and then from the far right hand side here, you're going to see the name, you see quick start, new, and all of those. So this is actually what you can use to build your machines and have them work for you. So how do we do that? How do we create servers? How do we create virtual machines and join them to those servers? So that's what we want to look at. So the first thing I would advise that anybody does is to first of all create a switch where all the machines are going to be connected to. And if you want to do that, you can come to Virtual Switch Manager here. So if you come to Virtual Switch Manager, what type of virtual switch do you want to create? So that's the first question that the system is asking you. Yes, you want to create a switch, but what kind of switch do you want to create? So you may want to create so for now, we want to create a private switch. So what a private switch means is that it does not have access to the internet, while the internal switch is. So for it to be internal means that it wants to be interacting with the network within the host machine. And then for external means, of course, it is open, right? So, but I want to do it as private so that my environment I'm building is the network is just within itself, right? So I want to call it private, and then I will just hit on create virtual switch. So when I do that, it asks me for the name of the virtual switch. So what I just want to give to it because of this demo is I will call it December demo, December underscore demo. So this is me creating a switch where all the machines, I mean, in my infrastructure are going to get connected. So what I do is I'll just click on OK. So this way I have created a virtual switch. Now a switch is in place for this time, not like the switch you have in your server room, but this is a virtual switch. So the next thing I want to do now is to create a server that is going to be the
Sorry to cut it short, Joseph. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't you think maybe we need to like explain like the external, maybe probably if they want to connect it to their internet, or do you want to
okay
explain that? Yeah.
that's going to be fine. So you may just jump on that, Steven. I'm just come to new again, and then I want to do excuse me, virtual switch manager. So where Steven's opinion is we should look at the explanation on external, internal, and private. So from your experience, Steven, you may just want to throw light on this, right?
Yeah, so I think just like what Joseph just said earlier on. So you know, like when you create your switch, you know, when you create your switch and when you create this switch, so you can decide to maybe probably you want it to go online, maybe probably like when you create the virtual machine, so that you can be able to go to can be able to go to maybe internet to browse one or two things because some people might probably create the switch and think that oh I can just go online, and you don't know that you have to maybe probably you just have to come where you have the connection type, you know. So where you, if you select the external network, so you can come up here and then you can actually just select your. Sorry, just can you just do that for me? Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen now.
Okay.
Yeah, just
So you want me to flip
yeah,
between
click on yeah,
these?
just create or if you can go back to that one you created, you can just
Okay, that's fine.
to
So
show them. I'm not sure. Can we edit that? Yeah, I think
okay, so this is
December.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So from there, so you can see where we have the external. So if you click on that external there, yeah, that top one. Yeah,
Yeah.
click on that. So you can so from there you can decide to maybe you want to allow this virtual machine to go like online. So that by the time you create the virtual machine and then you choose the switch, then you can probably like take it online. But if you don't want it to go offline, so you can just you want it to go online, so you can actually just disable that. So with that, so remember that it's taken from your host machine, which is your internet, not like you're creating like creating separate internet for that. No, it's taken from the host machine. So once that is clicked, so that will allow that virtual machine to go online, and maybe eventually you need to do one or two things, and maybe you want to go online with it. Yeah, so I think that just want to explain there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that that will help us on the later experience, because someone was going to
Yeah.
ask, how is it that your machine that you built it is not having access to the internet? Because the machine we are going to have at the end of this demo is not going to have access to the internet, and that's because the switch is a private switch. I think that's what Stephen has been able to explain to us on time
Yeah.
before we get to that point, right? So, Stephen,
Yeah.
thank you very much for that. So, we're trying to create a virtual machine, right? And then we'll come to new. So if you come to new, you see virtual machine. Okay, so if you look at virtual machine from here, you will have option um, to before you begin, you can decide to read the detail that this wizard will help you to create a virtual machine. You can only use virtual machine in places of physical computer for varieties of users, like that. So you can read all the details there. Then this is where you want to give a name to the virtual machine. So I'm just going to call it Joseph DC. I'm gonna just put DC. So what is a DC? A DC is a domain controller. So domain controller is where users authentication take place. So because I have it in mind that at the end of this demo, the machine I'm creating is going to be the domain controller. At this point, it is not yet a domain controller until I install the rule that will actually make it a domain controller. But because of the planning that we have, we know that it is going to serve as a domain controller. Hence, we are putting it DC. So it can be DC1, it can be DC01, right? It can be DC01, just in case you have other DCs, right? You can have multiple domain controllers. So here is talking about where you're going to store. So store the virtual machine in a different location. If you go ahead to do next, then the virtual machine is going to be saved.
Sorry to cut short again. Just yeah. So let me just like where you naming the virtual machine. So I just want to chip in something like a naming convention, so that in case if you are in a production area and you need to create something like this, so you don't go down and put your name just like the way Joseph did. This is just like a
Oh,
demonstration. Yeah,
yeah,
because
thank you,
yeah,
Steve.
yeah. So when
I
you're creating
get your
for
point.
organization, yeah, so there's always a naming convention. Maybe it depends on what you're creating. Maybe you're trying to create file server or something like that. So you have to give like a
Yeah,
proper name for that virtual machine, so that I love naming convention. I love
yeah, that's
yeah,
that's very important, because if you are not there, someone else will see it
yeah,
to
yeah.
actually understand what it is doing, right? So
Yeah.
thank you very much for that. For that, I mean, I've overlooked that, but of course, that's very important, so that you don't build an infrastructure where someone else's cannot use until they contact you when you're no longer in the organization. So let's know what you're doing, so you can
Mhm.
give it a name. So for
And they
this,
have a
I'm putting
proper
this.
documentation also. So
Yeah, very important. So you need to make a documentation to say Joseph this is 01 is our domain controller one, right? So similar
mhm.
thing. So if we want to save this, we if we want to leave it at the default location, we can leave it here. But if we want to clean things up, like we want to delete things later or clear things, we should know where everything is stored. So for me, I have a folder on my desktop that I call virtual machine. So I'm just going to click on that so that is where I want to store the virtual machine. So when that is done, I'll go to next. And this is very important, Stephen, because from this information, this virtual machine generation provides support for newer, for version 2, right? Which we are going to look at in the documentation I'm going to bring up. So we'll see why we are taking Gen 2, right? Because once a virtual machine has been created, you cannot change the generation. But you
Generation.
should
Yeah.
know something about this, that the virtual machine that has the generation 1 is for 32-bit and 64-bit operating system. But the virtual machine generation, this one here, generation 2, provide support for newer virtualization features like the UEFI based firmware, and they require support for 64-bit guest operating system. So here is only 64 bits, and here support 32-bit and 64-bit. But this one has newer version. But one thing you must know is this information here, you do not have the option to change it once the machine is created. We are going to be looking at this in the documentation, but let's just move on to next. So this is where you look at what memory do you want to give to the system. And this is actually a function of how much memory you have yourself in your machine, right? So you have to check your own machine, which is the physical host, to see what do you currently have as what do you currently have for your system before you want to give out to you want to give out something to the machine, right? So if you look at it, currently I have 24 gigabytes RAM space. So it means that, and from this I have 23.9 gigabyte that is still usable. So what it means is that if I'm giving that machine 25 gig, then I will not be able to get to the end of it, right? So that is speaking about the RAM space. So you have to decide what is the RAM size you want to give to the machine. Look at what you have in the host first. And then the second thing that will happen later is the storage. So the storage, what is the size of my storage remaining? I have 68.1 gigabyte free space, right? So what I want to do is, if I have 61 gig free, then this should inform me what I want to give to the machine as my storage. So I will just close this out for now. So for my RAM, I want to give it 2 gig RAM for the machine, 2048 is just okay. So it's pulling from my 24 gig. I can decide to give it 4 gig, 8 gig, because I have a lot of memory space, right? So I can even just make it so you can just make it a number without, but just make sure that it is more than one. It is more than 256. 32 MB. Yeah, it is more than 32 MB. But this is not recommended. It's just saying that you can give it from 32 megabyte RAM. Of course, when you give it 32 megabyte RAM, you should expect that the system is going to be hyper slow because, um, of course, the processing of that is going to take a lot of time. But then what it is saying is that you can give it between that and 25 gigabytes. I think this is 25 gigabytes in terms of MB 2516582 to this. So you can give from 32 to 25 gigabytes, but I'm just giving it about 3 gigabytes for the domain controller. So I'm going to do next.
Yeah,
So
sorry, Joseph, to cut you. Yeah, I think again, I just want to just emphasize in that numbers for those that don't understand how you gave it that, maybe they just feel just with any random figure. So like what Joseph is saying, maybe you want to give it 2 gig, 4 gig. So 1 gig is, so just to know that 1 gig is 1024. So why can you multiply 1024 times 3 or times 2, so that's the figure that you're going to impute there, so that in case for those that don't actually know, so 1 gig is 1024. So by the time you use your calculator and you multiply 1024 by, maybe say you want to give it like 10 gig or it's 5 gig, so the number is what you're going to impute there. Yeah,
thank you very
so if
much,
you say
Stephen.
times, maybe like,
You're actually the one considering the beginners than I do. Thank you for being on the call. So, so I was just saying 12048, right? So we are doing 3 gig here. So this is 1 gig, 1024, according to the calculation. So we are going to do times 3. So ideally, for us to have 3 gig, we're supposed to have 3072. So I think I would do that. I was just giving it 3000 so that I would just move on. But 3072 is actually 3 gig. So we can do 3072. 72. So that's going to be 3 gig. So we do next. So now is where we decide the switch to, add this machine to, so that whatever machine that is going to be joined to this domain is also going to be on the same switch. So we just do December demo, which is the switch we created earlier. So we just remember it's a private switch, as Stephen has been able to explain to us, external switch and then uh, private switch. So we see December demo and then we do next. Then what we do now is to give this machine a name. And from the beginning, I had given it Joseph DC01, and Stephen spoke about conventions here that we should be very mindful of. If it is a file server, whatever server it is, then we should indicate it. And yeah, this year actually would again tell you that it's a domain controller that is going to be. Then 127 gigabyte RAM is speaking about what space do I want, storage space do I want it to have. Of course, I don't have enough of space. When we check, you see I had 60, so I'm going to give this guy 30 because I also want to create a machine where we'll have this there. And I think I must come back to explain something here. Is this use dynamic memory for this virtual machine? And this is very, very important because when you check this, so when machine is booting up, it tend to consume a lot of memory compared to when it is stable and functioning or running. So checking this is very important because at that point you are saying that you can use as much as 3 gig if you need to. But if you don't need up to 3 gig, please don't use up to 3 gig. So at the point where the machine need at startup, the machine is going to use up to 3 gig if it needs to use up to 3 gig. But when in the stable state, then it releases some memory back to the host computer and then it will function along. It is very important that I mentioned this. So when you decide how much memory to assign to virtual machine, consider how you intend to use the virtual machine and the operating system that it will run. Okay, so we'll do next. So we'll put it in demo switch. And then the next we want to do is to give it memory size, which we have given it. Now, if you already have a virtual disk that you want it to use, you can bring the virtual hard disk in at this point. If you have, if you don't have, and you want to create one from the host, you can do next. And then this is where it asks you what operating system do you want to have on it. So you have Windows operating system, you have Windows Server operating system, but this time we want to use Windows Windows Server operating system. So what we do is we click on this. So the next thing that it wants to do is it wants to check where I have the image so that I can bring it on. But if I don't have the image at this stage, I can also leave it. And then later I can bring up the image to it. But I have the image, the ISO file, which is the bootable image. So I'm just going to browse. And then what I do is, so it's on my desktop, I save it in a folder, that same folder called virtual machine, just for things to be clean. And then we have Windows Server 2016. This is what I want us to use. I also have image for 2019 and there is also image for 2022 that I have in my other storage. But to keep things simple and just in case anyone wants to carry out this demo for compatibility sake, you may just want we are
Uh,
using this and you may
just
okay.
Sorry, I was speaking. I didn't know my mic. I don't know. Things just
Oh,
changed mic automatically. So I don't know. You're not hearing me. So
oh,
sorry. I think you've gone far. I wanted to say where you have the size, the disk size. So just to make people be aware of, we talk about the RAM. We're talking about 1 gig is,
yes, please.
and so I think we need to explain so that people don't get
Okay,
it
so
wrong.
I don't
Yeah,
mind
if you
going back.
okay,
This
yeah,
is
so
it.
that's yeah. So this one is the hard disk size. The one we did previous was the RAM. So in case you don't really understand, so this is the hard disk size. So on the hard disk size, it's not the same calculation with the RAM this time. So you don't go and start calculating the one we did earlier. there. So in case, so people should just be aware of that. So and let's just like what Joseph said, the hard disk, you have to consider what space you have on your host machine also.
Host computer,
If
yeah.
you don't have much space on your hard disk, so you can't come up here. If you are just 80 gig and you come here, you're assigning 80 gig to your virtual machine, that's going to be a disaster. So you have to look at your, because what we are trying to do, we are picking up resources we have from our host machine to create this virtual machine. So anything you are doing, you have to consider your host machine first before and before you can assign your size to either to the RAM or to the hard disk. Okay. Yeah. So that's
All right. Thank you very much for that input, Steve. So we'll do next, and that will just take us to where we were. So we want to pick up the operating system, and we are picking up 2016, and then we click on this. So when this is here, so the next thing you want to do is just to click on next. So this summarizes what you want to do. So this is saying that this is the name of the machine you are creating. Is a generation 2 computer, and you are giving it 3 gig RAM, and then the network that you are putting it, which is the switch, is the demo, the December demo switch, and the hard disk is going to be saved in this location, which is uh, which is a folder on my desktop, and then the operating system is also here and it's bearing Windows Server 2016. So this is a summary of what you want to do. So what to do next is just to click on finish. So this machine is going to be created and is going to be in the off state. So yeah, it is done. But at this point, it is in the off state, so it's not on. So what we'll do is you can either right click and then click on connect, or you can double click just so you can connect with the machine the very first time. I'm pulling it over to this screen. So this is what you will have when you when you click on start. So I'm going to click here now, and then it is going to be booting from that bootable file, and then it's saying connecting. So this time it's saying I should press any key just so it can pick up. But if it doesn't click for you, you're going to click on action, and then you click on this first one here, which is Control Alt Delete, right? Just click on it, and then it will give you option to type anything on your screen, right? So let's see what this is saying. So
set up.
choose an operating system to start, or press a tab. Use the arrow key to highlight. Let me see what's happening there. Okay, so it's just going to pick from that VM, and then it is starting it up the very first time. So while this is trying to load behind, I was telling you that there are some bit of delays that we are going to be having on this call while
Yeah,
trying to
so
process,
before
because yeah.
before we move forward, so just to make people aware that when you are trying to load that, you can see where you say press any key. So you have to be like, it has to be immediately. You have to do it fast so that it doesn't give you some error. So you have to press any key on your keyboard immediately for you to get to this stage. So if you delay, it might you have to go to that action and then say
Yeah, thank
control.
you. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted
Yeah,
to say. Thank you very much, Stephen. Yeah. So
yeah.
so let's maximize again. So this time is saying Windows Server 2016 is what you want to install. And then the time and currency is US time, and then keyboard is US. So we can just, you can choose whatever works for you, and then you can click on install. So if you click on install now, so it's going to be starting up with this setup. So when it's starting up this setup, it's going to take some time. So while that is trying to load, I may just quickly bring you back to the documentation that we have here. Okay, so I will click on this first. So before we experience that loading and loading, so this is asking if you have a product key for it. You can decide to put a product key, or you can decide, for now I don't have a product key that I want to supply, so I just want to say no, I don't have a product key. So this is now saying, Steven, I think here actually needs a lot of explanation because if by mistake you go to see maybe Windows Server Standard, and then, or you're going to do Windows Server, you did not consider putting a desktop experience. So what you're going to be having is just, so if you go ahead and click on next now, the machine you are going to build is going to be a machine that does not have the graphical user interface. So you have to know how to use commands to operate your machine.
Mhm.
And then for the Windows Server 2016 standard desktop experience, and then you have also Windows Server 2016 data center. This also does not have the call it the GUI, the graphic user
Yeah.
interface.
Mhm.
So let's use this. So for everyone you click, you're going to have the description. This option recommended reduce management servicing by installing. So you can just take your time to read through this. It's interesting information, of course, but we're going to use this one. This operation is default. A GUI is required for example to produce backward compatibility for an application that cannot be, you can read that out. So if application is not compatible on a server core, you may want to install it here. Then all server rules and features are supported. So for more details, you can also check this. So what we want to do at this point, Stephen, do you have a comment here?
No, I think yeah, that's fine. So I think the beauty part of it is that from the description. So when you click on each one of it, and it's going to like tell you what you are trying to do. So I think that's just the beautiful part of it, and even with the documentation is quite straight forward. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do next in that case. So when we click on next, what happens is the license agreement. So I will encourage you. So it's long and you know but if you can
Yeah.
take your time to read through
People
this,
don't
it's
read
recommended.
license agreement.
So, but from experience, a lot of people don't read because people don't have time, right?
Yeah.
But
Sure.
it is important that you go through the applicable notices and license terms, right? So you can do next after. And then this is if you had a system that you wanted to upgrade, of course, you want to use upgrade. But in this case, we are just installing like a fresh system in Windows, right? So we can do custom, right? And then you do next. So if you do next now, then this is going to take us like 10 minutes. So while we are waiting for that time, I'm going to pull something to this screen right away. And that's a documentation that I put together about maybe about 1 year ago. Can't when it opens, we will see it. We'll see when that post was made, so that we can just
And I
look at
think
what we have done now.
And I think if people are just, if people could just like take this very serious, this alone is what can gain you like an intra job. And I can remember there was a time when I came to the UK. Then, my first job, I had an interview, my first interview as an IT. So, and this was exactly what they gave me. So they gave me a hypervisor environment, and I said, okay, do this, go to Active Directory, create, do this, do that. So if you can spin up something like this, alone in an interview, and this is a practical, an interview, a practical of us. That was my first ever practical interview I ever been to. It was also wonderful. So if you can really have this kind of experience and you go for an interview, so you don't have any reason to start you get scared or start shaking. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. So this was a document I put together. That was about, if I'm not mistaken, that was about a year ago. Yes. So what was covered here was what is virtualization first of all, and what is hypervisor. So virtualization necessitates the utilization of hypervisor, initially known as virtual machine monitor. So the theory is here, and then if you come to this place, you will have further the types of hypervisors. You have the types, so that just in case you want to also read what are the benefit of hypervisors: improve resource utilization, versatility, portability. Of course, portability in the sense that I'm having only my PC now and I'm able to build a server upon a Windows 10, and you will see how we can also build other machines. Then rapid deployment, of course, is what we are doing now. Then reliability also. So this is where we spoke about going to check if the virtualization is enabled. So I'm saying that open the taskbar by searching for Windows, search for this, and then select performance. If you press Control plus Shift plus Escape key, it's going to give you um, the task manager. So if you click on performance and then you click on CPU here, then you would see the option to check if virtualization is enabled. So this is how to enable virtualization. So if it is not enabled, this is how you can enable it from BIOS, like I mentioned while we're having this conversation. So this is how you do that. Then how to install Hyper-V on Windows 10. Of course, to enable Hyper-V for creating virtual machine on Windows 10, there are various methods available, which include using the Windows 10 control panel and PowerShell. So after that, I also came up to say something about system requirements for Hyper-V, that your system must be Windows 10, enterprise or pro or education. Then you must have, you should have at least 64-bit processor with a second level address translation. Then your CPU should support this, and then it's important to note that the Hyper-V rule cannot be installed on Windows 10 Home Edition. So this is a very important thing, and that's why it was embolded, just so we can know that if you have Windows 10 Home, then you cannot. All you can do is to upgrade your Windows 10 to your Windows 10 Home to at least Pro or Enterprise before you can do that. Then enable the Hyper-V rule. So searching for turn on Windows, and then when you open this, then you select the Hyper-V box, and then the next thing is you click OK. And then the next thing you do is look at it here. You click check this box here. Just once you click here, everything here is also going to be clicked, and then you can click OK. The system will require you to restart. The system would prompt you to restart, and then when you restart, then you're going to have the Hyper-V manager showing up for you here, which is what we have where we are working on right now. And then the next thing is you would see this showing up here, and then this is what you have. If you want to use PowerShell also, you can use PowerShell to enable Hyper-V. And this is like the first documentation that would introduce you to Hyper-V environment. So I'm not sure where to drop that comment, but let me see if there's a place for me to quickly drop that for those that are watching, so that you can you can have that. Is there a place for me to drop that? Yeah, I think this is from Steven's end. So I'm just going to hit on enter. Let's see. So
Yeah,
that
I
will
think
be a comment there. So that's the first. Yeah. So that's the first documentation. But while that is again loading, let's check what we have in our. So this is still loading at 89%. That said, so we are going to pick up another document that I also was able to put up within the maybe this year, and that is how to create Hyper-V. How to create Hyper-V. So let me just do Control C, and then also come to this place, and then I'm just going to paste it here. So how to create VM in Hyper-V. So the steps that we just followed through is what we have in this other documentation. Okay, so can you quickly open for us? Okay, so here we go. So this is talking about how to create the VM. Of course, create a VM in Hyper-V. Windows Server minimum requirements was stated here. And then the next thing is, of course, we come to create the virtual switch. Okay, I started by creating the virtual machine first. You can also create virtual machine first and then later join it, connect it to the switch. So if you do this, look at the steps that we followed, that very first wizard that came up. And then the next thing was where we had options to give it a name, and then we did that. And then we came back to choose the generation. So here we spoke about, now you can select the generation of the virtual machine you wish to create, that the default is generation 1, but you also have the option to create a generation 2 virtual machine. It's important to understand the key differences between generation 1 and generation 2, as the choice cannot be altered once the virtual machine is created. I think we mentioned that during the course of our creating of that. And we have here advantages of using generation 2 virtual machine. Secure boots is one of the advantages. And then we have larger boot volume for generation 2. And then we have here, we're speaking about the dynamic memory that we mentioned earlier. So dynamic memory defines startup memory as the minimum amount of memory that a virtual machine can have. However, Windows required more memory during startup, right? So you can check this out also. And then we come here to, so this was where we stated the configuration of that, and then we came back here to check to give it the memory space, and then we checked what do we have as a disk size. So we gave it based on what we have on our PC. When Stevie mentioned that you cannot give everything you have because you still need something to function, in case of memory storage, right? So here's the summary that we looked at. And then when we looked at this, and then the next thing we did was where we hit on start, and then where are we? We are somewhere here, and we also clicked on this after choosing this, and then I think we are at this point where we said no product key, and then we selected the Windows Server, um, you know, data center with desktop experience, and then we did next, and then we came here to look at the license agreement, and we pick custom. So when we picked custom, we said okay, we click on next, and then this is where we are going to right now. So when we get to this place, I'm sure that would have processed this already. When we get to this place, then the next thing we want to do is to use the password to sign in. And then when we use the password to sign in, of course we would do, this was when this guy was later now give addressing the issue of the switch, which we have done in our own previous step. So that means we are not going to be doing the switch thing again. So coming next is the networking. So having looked at these documents, what I would just do is quickly to also try to copy it and then see if I can drop it on the, if I can drop it on the comment also. Do I just click on do I just click on reply?
No, you
Okay, let
can
me
you can
see. I'll
post it
just
again.
do it on.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so is that coming through the way it's supposed to be? Okay, then, so that's fine. So we'll come back to what we are building, and this is what the password was asking us. So I'm just going to give it a password. Hmm. So once you give it this administrator password, then you click on next. So it will be finalizing the setup of that machine. So this is where it is important that we also describe something. So if you want it to be like on the half of the screen or side part of the screen, you can do this. You can, so the size that you want to have it, I mean the screen display. So choose the size of your desktop for interacting with the virtual machine. Drag the slider all the way to the right to use the full screen. So you can drag it. So if you have multiple screen like I do, and I want to occupy the whole screen with only that virtual machine, I can say use all monitor, but I'm not going to do that because I still need to monitor what is happening on my second screen. And this is most time what is practically obtainable. So I'm just going to click on connect. And then what happens is that the machine is going to load again, and then I can maximize this. Okay, that's not maximizing, and then it's just coming on. Okay, so this is going to take uh okay, it's not taking time. I think that's on the issue of Windows 10. I hope my password is correct. So it's just going to now that very first time sign me into the Windows Server environment by coming up um, to like the welcome home screen of that machine. So when this is done, so the next thing we want to quickly do, I think, is for us to create, to now wait for this machine to load first. Now we don't jump things. So this is you building an organization. The organization is, this is the starting point, right? So the next thing you want to do is to, okay, so I want this to be my domain controller. So what makes it a domain controller is the role that you have it there, the role, the ADDS role. So it becomes like the authentication center for your users, right? So just for your users and then your computers as well. So once this come up now, this is not yet a domain controller because the rules that need to make it domain controllers are not yet installed. So the next thing we want to do is now we want to install that role that makes it a domain controller. So, Stephen, yes, we've got our first VM on the call. So, do you
Yeah.
have anything to say about?
Yeah, I think this process alone, for you to be like on if you're on this call and you see from start and to finish, you can see that this is not something that is maybe record at the end of the day, come and edit, you do some magic at the back, and you are not seeing the magic. Yeah, because we've seen people say, I've tried this one, I tried it, it's not still happening because of YouTube content at times. But this is live and direct, and you guys can see where we started from scratch, creating, enabling the hypervisor, and then before creating the virtual machine. And what I just want to chip in here is just it's just for those that might be getting it confused, because I know some people get confused between hypervisor and then having your virtual machine, which is like, we have Oracle and we have the PlayStation this thing. So
Yeah,
the most important thing is that what you need to do, what you need to know is that you need to first of all check the resources of your machine. Those are, you need to know your machine, your between your laptop needs to have, need to meet that requirement for you to create this. So don't just go and pick up any random laptop and just come and say you want, and you don't get stranded, you get stuck, and maybe at the end of the day you just damage your machine. So you have to make sure that your machine meets the necessary requirement, because like we said earlier on, you are taking part of resources of your host machine to create this virtual machine. So for you to enable that, just like what Joseph said, the first thing, you need to make sure that virtualization is enabled, and which I think most machines always enable. It's just that maybe some organization, if you are using it, don't go and use company laptop because they will disable that. So companies will definitely disable virtualization. But if it's your own personal laptop, I think you should be able to do that. If you can't do that, you should be able to enable it by just going to the BIOS, and then maybe we're not able to do that on the call. Maybe some other time we'll see how we can trick. Yeah, so
yeah,
you
Stephen.
can just, yeah, so enable the hypervisor, enable the virtualization, and then before you can now um, install your hypervisor, and from there then you now start installing the virtual machine. So it's the hypervisor that we are now putting our virtual machine, but we are working based on the resources of our host machine. So yeah, so this is like just like what Joseph said, this is, we call this active directory, but it's not yet active directory, not until when it's
When you install the role. So,
yeah.
thank you very much, Stephen, for that. So, here is again the computer name. So, this time we need to rename from these points also. So, what we do is to click on here, and then just go to change, and then give it a name. So this time I also want to call it, because of consistency, so we'll still call it Joe, but Stephen has told you, please don't go and give a server your name. This 01. Okay, so this is it. So I'm just going to click on OK, just so I can rename it first. Okay, so I don't mind. I want to quickly restart. It's not going to take some time. Just because I've renamed it, then I will need to restart it. So the next thing we want to do is to do the network planning, because this time is going to be a machine that will need other machines to be on the same network for it to be able to communicate with it. So we need to do the network planning, and this time we'll be bringing up the IP subnet calculator. Yes, of course, there are ways that you could do that manually, but I just want us to quickly do something with IP calculator, right? So I'm just going to, first of all, I want to minimize this machine. So this is so if you go to IP calculator, I also try to see if I can drop that. So Steven, you were trying to tell me where to drop like a new comment. Where do I do that?
I think close. Can you just
Uh,
click on that close that box where you have that? Yeah, just click. Yeah, then you
oh,
can
oh,
now.
oh, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
that one was blocking. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that's true. So I'm going to use this, and if you look at this resource, it's actually very, very useful. Calculator.net. It is IP subnet calculator. So we have classes of IP, which is outside of the scope that we want to discuss on this call. But we'll just quickly come up with. So I have a design here that I did myself. An organization will definitely have like a design in the place. The infrastructure team would have designed the IP they want to use. But in this case, that we want to have our own conversation, we're just going to be using a class CIP, which is 192.168.80, and then we're going to be having the what's it called now, the cider notation as /28. So and then we're going to be using so if you do it as /28, then it's going to give you 16 network: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16. So it's not 16 network, actually one network but with 16 subnets. Okay, so subnets are are used to distinguish maybe departments in your organization to say, okay, the IT is going to be on this subnet, or maybe you want to see all your people from HR are going to be on this same subnet, depending on how your planning is going to be, that you can break down your network into sub networks within your organization. So the entire network here is 192.168.80.0 is supposed to be what it is, but we are doing /28 so that we'll have this number of subnets. So this is actually out of the scope of this conversation, like I mentioned earlier. But when we do this, we'll have the network to span between, for the first network or the first subnet, you have from 0 to 15. However, the first 0, which is the first network on that your network space, is called the network ID. So it's not going to be assignable. And then you have the last IP, which is the broadcast. It's also not going to be assignable. So, but the usable IPs that you can make use of here is the the option from 1, which is 80.1 to 80.14. So now, but a lot of people use .1 as their default gateway. So we and then what we will just do is so for our DC, I mean for all the machines that we're going to build in this conversation are going to be on the first subnet, right? So on this first subnet, we are going to give our domain controller the second IP after the default gateway IP. That's what I wanted to give you. That is to say, we want to do 192.168.80.2, right? Because this one is going to be the network ID, this one is going to be the broadcast, and then this is the default gateway, and then the first IP after the default gateway IP, we're going to give it to the machine. So that said, this machine is supposed to be up now. So I'm just going to drag this other guy to this screen just so I can be relating directly with it. And then I'm just going to bring this up, and then what I will do is I'll put it here. I will put in my password. So if you have questions, especially regarding the IPs, you may ask and we'll be able to clarify you. Our eyes are also on the chart. So we are bringing the machine up the first time. Remember, it's going to be the IP. The IP we're going to give to this machine is going to be the IP after the default gateway. But before we even go on to that, I just want to do something here. I want us to do something here, and we'll just do CMD. So if we do CMD and then we click enter, the machine is just trying to load. So if I do IP config, so what IP config is going to do is to tell me the IP currently that this machine is currently having. IP config. So if I do this, then it's just going to be one random IP, which is 169.256.164.55, right? So, but this time we have an infrastructure. We have designed our the infrastructure team have actually helped us to, or the architect has drawn up our network for us. So what we do is come to the local server here, then go to you will see Ethernet. So click on Ethernet and then click on this again, and then you come to properties, and you can come down here. You may decide to uncheck IPv6, but double click on IPv4, and then so you can actually have your DHCP auto assign IP to machines, but not your server, right? Because you want your server to have a constant IP, so you want to give it a static IP. But for the other machines that are going to be joining, you may want to give them dynamic IP. But maybe for your printers, for your IP phones, you may want to make them have like a constant IP. But for this particular computer and for what we are doing on this call, our IP is going to be a static IP given to this server. So we'll just click on here, and then what do? We now enter our first subnet IP. I mean the second subnet after the default gateway. So we'll just do 192, then 168. Then what we do is .80. Remember that we said the second, right? So we're going to do 2. Then if we come down here, remember that um, we showed you something here that was /28, right? Looking at it here, we said we are going to use, excuse me, we're going to use /28, which is this /28. So what it means is that, and if you check the list, it's going to be .240. I mean 255, 255, 255, 240. So what we will do here is to come here now and put here as 240, 240. So if you do that, then again, one thing you want to know is if you want this to be your preferred DNS, you can make the server your preferred DNS. So let's just repeat this IP for this particular machine: 168, 168, then 80, then we are putting it at .2. So you can also choose to give an alternative DNS server. That's another conversation. So why we are trying to set these IPs, because the IPs within the same range would have to speak to themselves. Now, having closed this, then if we come back to cmd.ms, I mean, excuse me, we come to cmd, we can do IP config, and then what we'll have at this time is the IP that we gave to it, which is 192.168.80.2. So this is the IP that we have given to this machine based on what we have designed in our environment to be the first subnet that we are going to use from 1 to 14, right? That is 192.168.80.1 to 14, where .1 is our default gateway, right? So what we'll do now is, yes, we've been able to set up the network. What is the next thing? The next thing is for us to install the rule that actually makes this a domain controller. And what is that rule that makes it a domain controller? Is the Active Directory domain service. That is the service we
Sorry,
want to install.
sorry, just before you continue. So, in case you don't probably like understand, because networking is quite broad, to be honest. And I will tell you the truth is, I too at times I struggle with subnetting. So, so it's something. But it's good for you to have, that idea to really understand what is happening with your machines. Understand a little bit of networking, have that basic knowledge. And I think I will advise, if it's for you to go and like take the basic introduction course on networking, it's going to like help you a lot in your career, because you never can say where you find yourself tomorrow, and you might just need that basic knowledge. Okay, so what we just did now is just to allow communication of the machine. So that is what Joseph just did now. He set like a protocols to allow what effective communication, so that just so the IP and all those things, just like your address, just like now I say, okay, Joseph, I want to come over to your place. It's okay, come over, you can come. You are just telling me I can come. You are not giving me the address of your house. So how do I want to locate you? How do I want to come to your place? You understand? So now we want to create an Active Directory and things like that we communicate with our resources. We want to create user and all those things that way they can. So if you don't have all those IP, all those things set, all those things will not take place. You understand? So there will be conflict. So I can't just set out and say I'm going to Joseph's house and I don't have his house
An
address.
address.
I don't know
Yeah.
where he based. Okay, so I think that's just the simple way I can just explain that.
Thank you, Stevie. So yeah, so if we want to do want to so this guy is as good as a machine. It's as good as one computer operating system that is Windows 10, because there is really nothing it is doing at the moment. So it can do the normal browsing for you, just like the normal computer would do. But why is it a server? That is what we want to go into. So we'll come to manage. So if you come to manage, you see add rules. So if you come to add roles, like there are a lot of roles that you can add to a server. One server can serve multiple purposes, right? So this is still before you begin, so you can it's advisable you always read. So this is saying like the role-based features or feature-based installation, and that's what we want to do. Select the installation type. So we do next. So if you do next now, what happens is that if you have multiple servers in your environment where you want to install the rule, you can pick it from this server pool. Or if you don't have it, I mean, if you want to search for it, you can also search for it in within here, just in case you have the IP or you have the name of that server. But this time, this is the only server we have because we are just starting up, right, as an organization. So the next thing is we click on this, and then what role do you want to um, install on this machine? So it's Active Directory Federation Service, no. Active Directory Domain Services, which is what is going to give you option. So add features that are required for Active Directory Domain Service. So there are other features that are required. So if you click on add features now and you scroll down this list, you will find out that so if I click on next, actually, you will find out that group policy management is checked by default because that is required. Then remote server administration 2 is also there. Then SMB 1.0 is also there. And then you have the window defender feature is also there. And you can see I cannot uncheck them because they are required, for that feature, the ADDS role to actually function. So we click on next, and then what happens now is yes. So if we are fine with that, so we can do next. So if we do next, and we click on install, so what is going to happen is again, it is trying to install those rules. So while it is trying to install those rules, it will take like a very split of seconds to come up. But one thing that is very important that I must schedule your mind to expect is that there's going to be a delay, right? There's going to be a delay when we are restarting this machine after it has been installed. And it is even compulsory that you also restart this machine before. In short, it will even restart by itself without you even giving it that option or not. So when the rule is installed, it is definitely going to automatically restarts. So we'll just wait, like we mentioned before this call, got into the main thing that we would expect some delays at some point because, like Steven mentioned, this is a live event. We don't have option to do any magic behind the scene. Everything is open for our learning and understanding. So when I did this, I think I set a time for it. So it took me about 5 minutes or so for the role to be installed, and then when I was restarting, it took me about 10 minutes. So, but while this is trying to do, so what happened next is to click on close. I'm going to also show you a documentation that actually, again, handhold people through the road of installing and promoting server to domain controller. Now, you can see that the ADDS role is already here, which is perfect, right? But then it is not yet a domain controller. It has ADDS role. So you have to now come here to the far right hand side. You will see the warning sign. So click on the warning sign, and then you will see promote this server to a domain controller. So it's until you now click on this that you can make it a DC. So we just kind of click on this. So what happened now is it is coming to tell you that add a domain controller to an existing domain. I do not have an existing domain. Add a domain controller to an existing forest. Remember, we are just building this from the very, very scratch. So we are going to click on add a new forest. So again, because we have started by saying Joseph DC1, so I'm just going to call this Joseph .com. So one thing that is very important here is that the domain itself at this point does not necessarily need to be like a public facing domain, because at this point I don't have anything to do with the internet. And if you look at my computer, I don't have internet here to connect to, right? It's showing that there is no internet or limited access. So I'm just going to give it joseph.com, because yes, I don't have this domain, but of course I can use any domain here because it is internal facing. But when I want to sync my resources to the cloud, then I have to go get a domain that is public facing, right?
Yeah, so I
Okay,
think that,
haven't
that
done.
that should be the first thing. Yeah, you need to like do get the domain running, and then before you can, so that you don't say you're in a production. So all those things will have been there. There are different department that take care of that. Yours is just get it, collect it, and then uh, make use of it there.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Steve. So now we're going to click on next. I'm just using my a domain that just came to my head to use, because of course. So this is now the functional level. Um, excuse me. The functional level of the new forest and the domain, Windows Server 2016, and then specify the domain controller capability, domain name server, and then it's going to be a global catalog. So the global catalog is going to be automatically selected because this is the first domain controller. It has to be a GC, right? It has to be a global catalog, and then of course it cannot be a read-only domain controller. So RODC is like a domain controller that you are putting in a location that you are not very sure that it is secure, kind of, but you don't want the IT guys to make any changes, but you want them to be able to see what is happening, and you want that communication to be very fast for sync in changes and in group policy. That is actually a bit out of the scope of our conversation today. So type the recovery services restore mode, the DSRM password, which is just for me to do like a recovery of the database. So I can just put a password. So I haven't done that. We'll click on next. So what happens is that so a delegate for this server cannot be forget about this error. It's actually like a normal error for me. So the NetBIOS domain name is just going to come up without the .com, right? Just going to come as Joseph now, and it's going to be a capital letter when that comes. Yeah, so without the .com. So you can click on next. Osayande, thank you very much. We're just trying to do our best. Thank you. So yeah, so next, so you can review the options that are available. You have the NetBIOS name is this, the Forest functional level is Windows Server 2016, the domain functional level is this, then is it a global catalog? Yes. Is it a DNS server? Yes. Is it creating DNS delegation? No. So you just review this and then you click on next. And
Sorry.
then at
Oh,
this
okay. So you've gone. Sorry. Before when you click on that, you can see where the right view script. So I think rows are good in
oh
PowerShell.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can
could
get
actually use that.
yeah. So in case,
Yeah,
so yeah, that one too. Yeah.
yeah. I missed that. Thank you, Steve. So if you are doing that, there's a place that is view scripts, and you can always use that script to install the. So this is saying the prerequisite has been checked, and then it's all good. So you just click on install, and then at this time you need a very big glass of water, and then that you can sit with, because it's going to take like a while for this to, come up with finishing installation. So while this is even trying to install, I'm not going to rush things. I'll just be very patient, but I will reach out to the documentation I have on on step to configure and promote. Okay, so for networking, Steven mentioned something. I think that's also very important, and I'm happy that I have a document that is a bit detailed when it comes to networking also. So I will bring it on the screen, but I want us to see what is happening here when this is done. So what's going to happen is that the system is going to automatically restart by itself. The reason why we are doing this is because even if you go to organizations to work, this is already set up, right, Stephen? And
Yeah,
it's hard that we have an engineer
you
trying
know
to
what's
set
going
up
on.
this from the scratch. So
Yeah,
so
because even
so
some people don't even have that like opportunity to even do this in organization because they've it has been done already. Your own is just work. I
come and
mean,
manage.
yeah, manage.
So this takes a lot of time. Like I mentioned, we have my water here, so I will just drink. So this is even so when the system restarts now, it's even going to take a longer time. I would have brought up another thing on the screen for us to look at in terms of the networking that I just did. Like I did like in ABC of Cloud, we did like a baby step of understanding networking, and we were able to create documents in relating to that. And when I show you that document, and if you can sit down
Yeah,
and then
I think
look
it'd
at
be good
it,
to share that document because I think I
yeah,
saw it.
yeah.
It's good.
So now look at it. Say you are about to be signed out. The computer is being registered. Being so I'm not going to touch anything, and then if I leave it for a while, it will just restart by itself. But I will just click on close. So this computer is being restart. You see, I've not clicked anything, and it's just going to do a restart. And from experience, this restart that you see here is going to take about about maybe about 10 minutes. I don't know if it's a function of my laptop or
Yeah,
just
thanks.
something.
And yeah, I think it depends on time. If you have like good laptop, if you have good resources like your RAM, and if you have maybe like SSD, yeah, hard drive, yeah, those also contributes.
So yeah, so it's important that we mention this because if you go and start this and it takes almost forever, don't feel that you have done anything wrong.
Yeah,
Nothing. So it's just going to just calm down for it. By this GPSVC, I check out this yesterday. It is group policy, something VC, right? So I don't want us to go into that now, but just allow this to load, which I'm going to minimize this server, and then I'll bring up the networking part of what I was trying to talk about. So in this document that I'm trying to open, there were lots of explanation regarding we had to even go back to binary operations and bring them up again and start having the strokes the stroking system of calculating binaries like 1111 and all of that. So let's see. Let's just wait for the document to load up. The chance for us just so we can have that. Okay, so in Hyper-V, so we brought out the classes of IPs, right? Just so you can know that there are classes of IP A, B, C, D, and then after which, so these calculations that were done, where we have the 255.0, right? Were done 1111, and this is how like the the calculator that we use. This is the model that it is following. We're able to go deep into how those are done, and then before we started giving it to machine. So if you can go through these documents, it is definitely also going to be useful to you as well. So this is we trying to check the machine and all of that. So especially the beginning part is going to be very useful. Yeah, where we have these calculations here to calculate the number of network bits and the host bits in binary. So we have this is slash 24, and then when we come to slash 20, where is it? This is slash 24, 5, this slash 26. So we have, yeah, look at this slash 26. So we borrow 2 bits. Then when we come to slash 20, 24, 5, 6, 7, 8 slash 28, right? So we have, yeah, this is it. We have this as 240. So how this calculation came to, but I think this is what we are using now. We are using 192.168.80 in place of 100 in this case, and then this is what we are using. So apologies, the slash is supposed to be forward slash, not backward slash. So you can correct that. So yeah, this is the networking part of the document, and then I think the last one, which is what we are doing now, is the promotion, installation, and promotion of machine to domain controller. I also took the pain to record what we have from ABC of Cloud as well. So you may want to also check that. But I want to open that now so that you see that the steps that we followed were properly documented also in what we have in that. So let's just check the progress. Of course, I think that it's going to take a while. So it's still there dancing, dancing, dancing. But that's cool. So we'll just quickly look through these documents and see that what we have done is actually what was done. Yeah. Okay. So I know I had a glitch, but I think I'm back now. So this is steps to configure and promote domain controller beginner's guide. So what did we do at this point? We step to configure promote domain controller. So we went to features and then we came down to these, and then we'll restart the computer to make changes. That's where we'll change the name, and then we came back to pick the machine from the server pool, remember? And then we clicked on next, and then we came back to check the Active Directory domain service, and then we clicked on next, and then we come to add features, and then we see here that other features were selected, and then we came to next, and then we came to next, and then we saw it load. Then we saw that the ADDS is already here, and then thereafter we have add a forest. So we had added a new forest, and then what did we do? We gave it the um, DRO DSRM, which is the directory service restore mode. We gave it the password, and then what we did, we came up to see that it was prerequisite was checked, and then this was without the .com or the top level. Then we saw where the location of the logs are going, the log files are going to be. And then the next thing is that this is what Steven was talking about. Steve, this we're talking about view scripts that we
Yeah,
missed.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
So if you click on view script, so you're gonna see that. So if we come back here, additionally, you will find PowerShell script that can be used to automate the installation of similar servers. So these PowerShell scripts are valuable for saving time and ensuring consistency when deploying multiple domain controllers or similar configuration in your network. You can copy and save these scripts for future use or for streamline the deployment of additional servers. So this was the script that Steven was talking about. So when you get to this review option, you can click on view scripts. It will give you a PowerShell scripts. And then this is what we are waiting for to come up. So when we wait for this to come up, so what we'll have at the end of the day is we'll have option for Active Directory users and computer to create user, and then we can create. So this is when we are trying to join a machine to the domain by also giving it an IP within that range. So I encourage you also to check out these documents. This actually took us, Steven, when we start writing these things, they are really very
Yeah,
stressful. So
I try the screenshot, taking all the screenshot game by game, make sure
it is
because
not
yeah,
easy,
it's not
but the
yeah.
mind behind it was just so we can help people understand this. And so this is the only user that we created with. So I'm just going to give it. So one thing I want us to see is that okay. So I think I will take this away, Steven. For now, let me show us something. So if you look at it, because I said joseph.com, so this is the name of the organization. So it's saying welcome to, if I had given it name of an organization, like Steven mentioned earlier. But if you look at something, when I click dots and I click on backslash, then what we'll be saying here is, so I wanted to see how do you want to sign into this device. I think that should be out of the scope for me at this moment. So I'm just going to put the administrator again. And then what I will do is to put the password. So if I hit this now, then this is the first time coming into this machine. This time, not just a machine, but it is now a domain controller.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is now a domain controller. Hey, we have our domain controller now. It means that at this time we can start creating our organizational units, we can start creating our users, we can start creating our groups, we can start creating our computers and like
Policy.
that. So yeah, so it's just loading. You can see it's trying to load up the services that are supposed to be on the machine. So while that even loads, if I come to click on, so it's still loading, I cannot click anything for now. So let's just chill. It's still trying to survive what it went through. So I'll wait for it to come. Okay, cool. So we're here now. So if you look at here, you see ADDS. So if I come to this place now, tools, I will see Active Directory users and computers. So I can click on it. So if you click on that, you're going to have my domain, which is joseph.com. So you can expand it. You can see built-in, built-in, built-in users and group. These come by default with them. These are groups access control. So you can expand this to see these are groups that come by default. Then you have the computer container. This is where your computers come to by default when you join machine to the domain. But if you start talking about group policy, then you can choose where you want those machines to be. So this is the domain controller. So if you look at this, it has like a small stuff inside of it, and this one does not have. So this one that has this is actually an organizational unit, and these ones here are containers. So this is a user container. These are default users, and we are using this first user here, which is the administrator user. So not to waste our time, we want to create an organizational unit, and that is just going to be for only IT. So how do you create an organizational unit? You can right click, depending on where you want it to be, you can right click on here, and then you go to new, and then you can come to organizational units, and then you want to call this IT department, and then you may want to check this so that people don't accidentally get it deleted, because of course it will be hard to if you don't enable recycle bin, then you will not be able to get this guy. So let's just click on OK. So inside of here, you can decide to right click and then go to new to create user, right? Or you can come here, you right click here, you go to new. You can also create organizational unit inside the organizational unit. You can decide to create groups inside organizational units. So I'm just going to quickly create a user just so we can move on to the next thing that we want to do. I just want to call this user. What do I even call the user? Let me call it Steven, and then the odd second name is Joseph. This way, so it's going to be Steven dot Joseph at mydomain.com. So this is going to be like, so this time you can yes, Steve, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I think what Joseph is trying to create now, is trying to create our users, and in normal terms, I know that like the object where we have the users, we have the printer, and then we have the computer. So all those are the objects that are inside so the organization unit is just like a container, to just where you organize your object, like just like what you said, creating an IT department. So if you have like an IT department and you have your finance department, you have the HR, you get so as 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 an admin person, maybe you want to run like a group policy, and you just want this group policy to just affect just the HR department and not everyone. So this is where this organization unit come in handy, which is very, very important. Or maybe like your company, maybe you have like a branch in outside the country, you have those the US branch, the UK branch. So you can actually also create an organization unit and then put those users inside there, which is known. So those users you are putting inside that OU is known as the object. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. So these are the, like Steven mentioned, you have computers, you have the groups, then you have the printers and all of shared folders and all of that. So this is, we're having one user. This guy is resuming, and the guy is in. So if you come to organization, then we can put his job title as IT support. So this is where you have all those. You can also do it from the administrative center as well. So this is department is IT. Then you can decide to fill in, or depending on what you have, you can give the user those, and then that is to say user is existing in your environment. Stephen, do you think we should still go ahead and create a Windows 10 machine and join into this domain before we go?
Yes, yes. So at least we can have the full view of how to when users sign in and all those things. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool then. So we just bring back the Hyper-V manager, and then I'll bring it onto the screen again. So now we want to create a Windows 10. So this is like this is a server. So we want to create a client computer for that will be joining to this same that will be that the user from this computer is going to be authenticating from, and then this would be the authentication authority for that user. So we want to go to new again. So we'll just quickly go to virtual machine, the same step that we follow to create the server. So we just want to call this one PC. Want to
Yeah.
call this one from PC1, right? So
Maybe, yeah.
so it's fine, right? So we can
Yeah.
just go to where we want to save the machine again, and we just come to this place just to keep things straight. Then we click on next. Again, it's generation 2, same thing that we did. So this is also where the startup memory starts. We can also do 2048, that is 1024 times 2. So we can do next, and then we want to put it in the same switch, and this is very, very important. So this morning I tried to do a DHCP. So when I join the machine too, so once the machine is here, if DHCP is enabled, it will just pick it up immediately, but that's a talk for another time. So we'll just do next, and then what do you want to give? One, what memory do you want to give to? We may just want to give this 20. I'm not sure I have a lot. This is for storage, like Stephen mentioned to us earlier. So we'll do next, and this is what the differences will now be. So instead of browsing to put a Windows Server image, we are going to put a Windows 10 image on this computer. So we're going to hit on this, and then the next thing we do is to hit on this, and then this is a summary of it: 2 GB machine, and then the DC is this. So just click on finish. So this time again, the same thing that happened then in the place of creating server, it is off by default. So we're going to right click, and then we click on connect. So it's just here again, and then we can click on start. So it's starting up now. So like Steven mentioned to us, you quickly need to type a key on your keyboard for this to load up, and this again is going to take a while, right? So this is where you also need to grab. I think this takes longer time, Steven, from my experience installing Windows 10 took longer
Yes.
time for me than
Yes, it
than
does. Yeah.
creating than
Yeah.
creating a Windows server. So this one is up on the screen, the time. So let's just leave everything the same way we did the other one. So we click on install.
I think this is just like a Christmas gift to everyone watching here today. So if you can just use just your Christmas and just replicate something like this, I think you really achieve something before the end of the year. And I think it's very. I remember when I started acting right that day. Every midnight, like I go to bed 5 a.m. at times.
Hmm.
I'm always up and running, running. So yeah, it's nice
So for
experience.
this, where you were having data center without Windows Server, standard without without desktop experience. In this one, you have Windows 10 Home, Windows 10 Home and then you have Windows 10 Education, and then you have Pro. So I'm just doing Pro. I'll do next. So what I'm installing
The
here
reason why we
is
are doing the
Windows
reason why we
10.
are doing pro is because this machine is going to be joined to the domain. So if you use home,
Yeah,
it's not supported. So there are
thank you.
different versions are supported for that purpose. Yeah. So in case you
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. So this is the license agreement that we mentioned. So we just do next. Again, custom install and then do next. Just the same thing that we did when we are creating, but this is going to take a longer time than the Windows server because I know that that first one runs very fast, but this getting files ready for the installation takes about 5 minutes, and then thereafter they can things can speed up a bit. Then we can move on to the other stuffs. So yeah, that is it. We're just going to remain here for a while and be waiting for this guy to process. So this is like you bought a new machine, and then you're trying to reload the Windows, right? From the scratch, manually. Of course, there are other ways where you can now do the autopilot and all of that. I think that's covered in MS 102, Stephen.
the also, yeah,
M
yeah, I think
M
so.
M MD 102, yeah, MD
Yeah, MD1.
102, MD 102. So while this is also trying to delay us, we may just check out something about MD 102 endpoint administrator. So this is a course I'm trying to look at now and see how I can learn some nice things about endpoint
Okay.
manager. So this
That's
is
nice.
this is just speaking about the exam generally. That's not my interest. Okay, so MD102, you pick to explore the endpoint desktop, the exam benefits, examine planning and purchase. I think I was reading through this today and it looks good, especially
Mm.
when it's dealt with application deploy. No, not there. I
Deployment.
think
Yeah. Uh,
so. Here,
interest rate.
I had
It's
something that looks. There's one diagram I saw somewhere that looks very attractive. This diagram looks a lot beautiful to me. So talking about the planning, the purchase, the deploy, the operates, the support, which is where most guys are sitting, and then upgrade when there is necessary, and
and
then
then
we
retirement.
retire. So yeah, so yeah, speaking about retirement, I saw your post yesterday about Windows 10 coming to
Yeah,
end
Windows
of
10
support.
coming to, yeah, that's on October next year. So,
So I know
I
that
think
I know
even
that a
my
lot
even
of PCs.
even my company we started upgrading machines, users machines to Windows 11. Yeah.
Windows 11. I mean, that is prevalent with updating. So some machines do not meet the requirement for Windows 11.
Yeah.
So what's the advice for such machines? Retire them completely.
Yeah, I think for organization it's just there's nothing they can do. They just have to like because even
Okay.
here in the UK, I know like once the machines are 5 years or so with user, they retrieve it back from them, and then they issue an upgrade. So that there is a particular life cycle of a machine that user can even have in some organization, and they upgrade it for you, and because of I think they take it back, and they have this their policy with most of these manufacturers. So yeah.
Okay. So looking at my laptop, for example, you see this PC does not currently meet the minimum system requirement to run Windows 11. get the details and see if there are things you can do in the health check app. So in this situation, I think I've tried to do a few things and I couldn't scale through. So what's the information for me is about that end of support is I should try to throw this laptop away before October. That's what it means.
Eh, and their end of support just simply means that they will not regard support. So which means that with all those patches will no longer, and which
Yeah,
if your yeah, so if your system is not receiving all those patches security things, so it's as well as say you are at risk. So yeah. So, and I think the most thing is the TPM chips something, yeah, the TPM stuff, because the Windows 11 your machine must have like this TPM 2.0, yeah, to able
mm,
to
mm.
scale through for Windows 11.
That's a big one for a lot of people at the moment. It's a big one. It's okay. So we are still trying to wait for this guy. So you see, it's still at 31. So that's what I was trying to say, that the 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 delay, I mean the time to load the files for the Windows 10 is usually longer than the server itself. So we may just again minimize this and then check out the okay. So where is this? So joining machines, I mean, I think about installing, let me see. Okay. Yeah. So this was just about, I was thinking if I have where we speak about joining machine. I think that's another document that may just need to be out, just so people who want to also follow the steps on how to create client machine and join them to the domain can also know how to do that. So this just requires a bit of patience, for us to achieve it. But I see that the installation feature, the installation update, and finishing up takes lesser time to load. But this is just where the entire bulk of the whole thing is. So we may just keep our fingers crossed and wait for it to come up.
Yes, so
So, Steven, have you seen this happening live somewhere in your own experience? Like someone coming to build from scratch?
no, I
Um,
haven't seen. I haven't seen it happening live, but I think during the COVID period, during that COVID, so there's this community I was, so a guy, this white guy, so he's just like, and we use in this it's called Discord. Discord is a platform, so we usually do that. So it just come once in a while, people that really want to see how this thing happen live, yeah, and they just pull people through, yeah. And but you have those few people that are ready to come and sit down and wait, because everybody just want to see, just go ta ta ta. And I think this is, like I said, this is a nice, this is a good experience. We are all seeing it. We are just being patient, spending. I think we'll be here for like 10 o'clock,
1 hour, yeah, it's about 2 hours now.
yeah, so you can see we've not even started. This is just like I just trying to build the foundation. Yeah, trying to build the foundation. Yeah, and you can see how it's going smoothly. So and I want and one the important thing of this live thing is that when you see when I mean when there's a problem, we troubleshoot it together and you see how it gets resolved. That's the
Yeah.
beauty. Yeah, so you see how it gets resolved. So it's not like when you do video recording, it does that one you just pause that area, you just edit and just yeah, yeah.
So while preparing for this event, I built it about 2 3 times, create the server, create the VM, join the VM to the server using static IP. I
Mhm.
deleted it and then I built another one again from the scratch, and I enabled, so I added a DHCP rule on the domain controller, and then I joined. So immediately I connected the machine to the switch, so it picked up an IP address from the DHCP server, and then what happened next is I was able to quickly join the machine to the domain without having to trouble myself about the
Into the
yeah,
property.
going to properties and then trying to say, okay, I want to change the Ethernet to, all of those ones were just straight for me. And I feel that DSCP is actually doing a very nice job for us
Yeah.
when it comes to this. So I'm saying
I
that
think
the next
I
episode
think
I will,
you enjoy the feel even more better when you have your router, you just configure everything and you enjoy, it's just like, yeah, you're in production area, you really see the whole thing. You know.
well, it looks so cool. It looks so cool last night. I was having a very nice time trying to build and destroy. This does not even cost me anything, right? So even without the
Yeah.
internet, of course, the good thing about this is that even without the internet, you can still do this on your machine,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
for people who are probably saying access to internet or something, it's going to be very, very simple for them, right? So it's going to be a very simple way to just go, just have your machine, Windows 10, have the resources. You don't have to have access to the internet. Like our domain controller at this time does not have
Hmm.
access to the internet, and this is it here. It is just here. There is no internet access on it, and yet we can
Hmm.
do stuff. So look at it, no internet. So
Yeah.
it is
I think I,
it's
I think
it is
the
important.
beauty part is that the beauty part of all this thing is that like when I saw your post say beginner, and I was, oh wow, this is actually good, because the truth is that no matter how pro you are, you still, that sometimes you still go back to those beginners, those days. You go back. There's some people that they've done this thing for a very long time, but at times, I mean, one thing with computer is that it's what you practice that you remember. If you don't practice
Yeah,
daily, like, believe if you leave it this, I like they used to say that if you leave computer for like 1 month, computer to leave it for 1 month. So so it's always good, always, you're always up to date and all those things like that. You just like what you said now. You said you did it twice, and I believe even before now you've done it like countless times, but you still took that time to sit down again, rebuild it, do it like twice. So that thing is like is in your subconsciousness. So if they call you tomorrow like this, say, "Hey, Joseph, please do," without seeing anybody's screen, you can even explain on the phone. Okay, do this. Okay, can you see this one? Okay, can I click on that? So that's not the beauty.
so you lost me for a while. Apologies. I can hear you now, Steven. Can you see me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
You can see my screen too.
yes, yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, I think my network uploaded. So you were mentioning about going back to do what, even though you know how to do it, just to do
Yeah.
it and be sure that, yeah, just to refresh your memory. And that's very cool. And I think that's one of the benefits we have being in ABC of Cloud. Myself, I've decided to create a playlist from the classes that we've had. So times like this, I will just go back and watch the videos and see what we did, and then try to practice again. And it has been very, very useful to me in
Hmm.
person.
Yeah.
So maybe one of the sessions that we will do next will be to install the DHCP rule. And because today we are just going to be doing like a static IP, and then the next one we're going to do is to do a DHCP where the server will automatically assign IP based on what we ask it to do to the machines on the domain, right?
Yeah.
So this is about the conclusion part of this installation. So let's just again wait for it to now boot. I think we should be fine from there. So when it comes up now, it is when we will now choose who wants to use the computer and then we choose if we want to give it a password or not. So check the keyboard style that we want it to have, and then yeah, it should just be a normal new computer that you just bought. But then again, Stephen, I must quickly say that if you are setting up a machine like manually, like a physical machine, not on Hyper-V, it even sometimes takes a longer time than even what we
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, it does. Like in the office, we set up machine for like Mac machine for users, and we do set up for Windows machine too. Like if I want to build like Mac machine for users, at least it takes me nothing less than at least for one machine. But if I'm doing two at the same time, it take like 2 to 3 hours.
To finish one setup, right?
That is it.
Yeah.
2 to 3. So it takes time. So it is just like you're trying to onboard user, so preparing their machine. So when they come and they can just log in, because you have to do prepare everything, make sure the security on the machines are fine, make sure the antivirus are okay, make sure the app they need is are all installed properly and they are in. So they want is just to come and then they log in and yeah, have a good experience.
Yeah. Man, it's a big one for us, but we are winning already.
Yeah.
Getting ready. Come on. So if we were doing a video for YouTube, we would have cut all
Laughs.
this side off it. Skip them
Yeah.
off it. But the good thing about what we are doing now is you would see everything so that if you're experiencing a delay on your own, you will not think something is actually specifically wrong with the steps you followed. So,
Uh-huh.
and we have also shared the documentation to see how you can do this. So if you follow that documentation and with the experience that you gathering from what we have like live now, you'll be able to know what to do and how to do it and how much time you even need to also get these things done. And that's very, very important. So I will expect it to take us to the next step any moment from now anyway.
And again, just to chip in this, like if you are like in production, when you are doing this in production, like um, business area, so most of the file, the IOSF ISO file is always
SO5.
boot. Yeah, it's always boot from the network. So there's a network, so you don't have to like what we did now. We pick it up from our machine.
Yeah,
It's downloaded on the machine, and then you just do for some in some organization is on the network shared network where you just go. You have to like press your maybe like on your keyboard, you press the F12, depend on the machine, and then you go and say, okay, boot from the network listing,
yeah.
then to not pick up that particular ISO file.
So that's very important. I think that's what I am looking at in MD102, and that's one of the major reasons why I'm picking up that course, just so I can see how that can also be configured. And as difficult as it looks, we may just be once in a while be hopping on the screen like this to do live
Mhm.
demos on this so that we can see how they are. Like we were mentioning, we'll try to do this with installation of the DSCP rule for another session that we may be having after now, which we have not actually fixed a time to it yet. So I must mention that whatever is happening now is normal. It's nothing out of the ordinary. Windows 10 looks looks um looks to take a lot of time compared to the Windows Server, and that's why I was asking if we should go ahead and hit it. But I think it's fine. I'm having the experience. We just wait, and ah, okay. I think we're seeing a change already. It's just showing a blank screen, and let's see what happens next. So at this point, the machine is restarting.
Yep.
Okay, just a moment. So we're almost at the final stage of all this. I think after this is just for us to set um the the user
IP
the
address.
keyboard. Yeah, so now once we get in, we can set the IP address, and then we can move on. So we are going to be giving this one the next IP to the IP that we gave to the other machine, which is the other machine was our dot two, and then we can give this one dot three. That is 192.168.80.3. So if we had DHCP, DHCP would have been able to do the work, but this time we are going to manually do it and then add the machine to the domain. Come on.
And it's even good that people are saying the way it's going. So it's just like what you said. So if you're an organization and you're trying to run something like this, it's taking time. Don't think you're doing rubbish. So just allow it to take its time because everything is running is what that particular machine needs to run smoothly. You don't interrupt it. So if you go and interrupt it, you might probably skip one or two things that might be vulnerable to that
Yeah.
machine. Yeah. So
So sometimes if you are not confident enough, you will feel that you are doing something wrong, and you go and hold
yeah.
down the power the power button to make sure that he this guy has to go off.
Yeah.
So you just have to allow everything to run and let it be in place, and then you can move on.
Yeah.
What I do in this case most time is if I'm working on something like this, I would just allow it to face some other
Yeah.
activities and
Yeah.
come
That's
back
why
to
it's good to have like multiple screens, so you can just drag this on the other screen and continue whatever you're doing. Mm.
yeah. So like as I mentioned, I did this up to 2, 3 times last night, and I just had to get busy on other stuff. So I could actually, it's just because we are learning from the scratch, would have been able to build this side by side the Windows server, so that we can jump
Yeah.
from the Windows server
Yes,
to
you
this
can.
one and from this to
Hmm.
the other one. But we didn't just want to create any form of uh, stuff that will not be obvious and clear to the viewers, and that's why we had to first of all finish setting up um, the server for coming to build the client machine. But if we had done the two side by side, we would have been able to get out of all this before this time, but
Yeah.
it's still fine that we are here. So this time is asking for the region that we are. So so talking about the region, you may just, so I am currently in Nigeria, so Stephen is currently in the UK. So since UK is fairly close to this US, I will just put UK there. That's the region. I can say yes. And then when you do this, the next thing that I want to come is what type of keyboard do you want to add to the machine? So all these have to follow through processes. So again, wait for this one to come up. So, but again, this is actually a function of the machine that you are building from. So, if my machine was of a higher capacity, then we would have been able to move past these stages faster than we are at the moment. So, it's saying something went wrong with the keyboard setting. Um,
Hmm.
Let me try
It's
again.
have to be like, yeah.
So, it was supposed to just take me to where I set the keyboard type.
Maybe just try skip. Let's see. Let's see what my.
It's taking quite a bit of. I think there is a glitch with this the file, the ISO file that we are using. Perhaps that's why this is taking this long. But it's not even supposed to. So I will have option here to say let's connect you to the network. So again, some people cannot easily distinguish between network and internet. So the fact that you have internet as network does not mean that all network have internet. So you can actually have your own private network in your environment. So this is saying let's connect you to the network. To finish setup, you will need to connect to the internet. So I will tell it that I don't have internet and it should do limited installation for me because I don't even have internet connected to the switch where I'm connecting this thing to this VM to because it's a private switch from what we explained from the beginning. So I will say I don't have internet. So that means that it's now going to use my private switch that I created. So again, because it does not have access to the internet, it will also pop up to ask me if I want to do limited installation because the internet access would have gone to update what I am doing. But because I say no, I don't have access to the internet, then what I want to do is limited installation. So that means some updates would be pending on the PC, which is not the best practice anyway. So something still went wrong with this. I think there is something significantly wrong with the OS I'm installing,
Or
perhaps.
is it because the cost in the region to UK?
I'm thinking that could also be a cause, right? Because I used US in the last one I did. So
Yeah, maybe
what if we come back to the what if we come back to this and then can we shut down and then restart it and see? But that means it's going to take from the beginning again, right?
mm,
I
I'm
think it
not
has something to
sure.
do with the region. So, but it's fine. Let's restart it and see. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to. I've stopped it. So let me reconnect. Starts. I think it could be the region I'm taking. So, but I took Nigeria in the previous ones I did, and I was able to scale through. Let's see what happens. Sometimes not wanting to start over could just be the reason why you get delayed some issues because we've gone too far that we don't want to start from the beginning. So let's see
Mhm.
what happens. So while that is trying to do its thing, I think we can just quickly create one that will just be coming up from the side, just in case we don't PC2, just in case we have or let me just remove that. I think we use PC1, that one. We just use PC2, and then these browse to desktop, uh, virtual machines, folder, next, Gen 2, next, dynamic 2048, and then connecting it to December demo switch, then leave this at 30 or let's say 20 because I don't have a lot. Yes, we're picking the OS, browse, Windows 10, open, next, Gen 2, finish. So let's be monitoring the two. Let's see which one goes. So this guy is saying we should pick region. So let's go and pick the region I am right now. So that let's see where our issue is coming from. I'm going to pick and here. So if you are watching and you know the reason why we are likely facing this issue, we're happy to hear from you. So, but then I've created PC2 just in case we need to come back to PC2. But let me just see that we follow through this one for now. Let's see what happens. I think this is seriously testing our patience, Steven.
Yes. So I think why this is going on, I just maybe I don't know, maybe we'll come what do one of these days. Maybe put it in the next year itinerary. So where we need to come and maybe we can get more people on the call to discuss on soft skills versus hard skills, because those things are very very important, because the like that they used to say the soft skills will pave the way for you for the hard skills, because some people just go all about the hard skills, and whereas that soft skills just that what we are doing now is part of it. Patient,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yes.
it's part of you. So if you don't, if you are like in front of you're doing something for a user, and this is taking normally it's okay, this should take me like 10 minutes, and it's taking you more than that 10 minutes, and the user is saying no, but I need this thing to be sorted. The user is ready to stay with you to make sure this thing gets sorted. But you, because of you still have some other things you want to go and do, you just want to tell this that no, I don't think this is going to be possible. Can we just the schedule? And these are saying, no,
Reschedule
I
for
won't have
me.
it tomorrow. No, I need this thing. Can you just help me? So these are part of the
The soft skill
so,
that we need.
yeah. So now we need one of them maybe by next year. I don't know. We can just look for one. Get Solomon on the call, and get one or two people from the ABCD of class, and then we just have like a round down discussion on that. Maybe people can share their
Yeah,
experience and all those things like that.
because yeah, expectation management, right?
Yeah,
Because if you had told someone that this is gonna take you like 5 minutes and it's bringing it to 30 minutes, users are not always. So I think from at this point we can
yeah.
say that there is an issue with this. So what we will do is we will shut this down, right? We will shut this
And then
PC one
continue with
down
the
and continue with the other one. Though it's going to take like another time, but I
just say
think we
turn
can
off. Yeah, you
just.
can turn. Yeah.
So I want to turn off and I want to also show us how to delete it. PC1. We can delete from the machine. Delete PC1. So we're going to pick PC2 now. Because PC1 has proven to be difficult for a reason that we cannot tell until we try out what is going to happen with PC2. So we're trying to talk about expectation management. So we're trying to manage the expectation of your user. It is very, very important that you you are clear in your communication, and if things are changing, you should also try to communicate, keep the user engaged while you are trying to do all of these things. So we are loading another OS, and let's hope that the next 15 20 minutes that will be done, and then we can call it a wrap. But we have to try to see that we've exhausted all options that we have, and see what happens next, because this is not supposed to take as long as it took. So yeah, this is it. So we do next, we install, and this is that part that took like a very long time of our time to load the files up. That took about 10 minutes, and before we were supposed to just move on to the next and then set up the keyboard, say limited access, and then we'll move on. But we had that hiccup. So here you say you don't have product key. If you don't have product key, so we are doing Windows 10 Pro, or we are doing next. So I'm saying no product key this time because I don't need a product key to do what we want to do. So I will just do this, and then I've accepted, clean install, and then yeah. So this is where I have actually had issues of delay in this second one that took about 10 minutes to fully load. So coming back to the conversation on expectation management and soft skill. So a lot of persons will actually know that soft skill is about greetings and trying to be polite while we have a conversation. But I think your points on patience actually caught my attention. As IT people facing users who are bringing issues for you to resolve, sometimes are frustrated already, and then
Mhm.
you need to manage their emotions. So emotional intelligence is very important. How do you tell somebody that you have told earlier that it will take like 30 minutes, that it's going to take 2 hours? So, or because it's going to take 2 hours, now you don't have time, you have some other things on your calendar. How do you discard such person? So, Stephen, your experience, if you had told a user like we are experiencing now, that it's going to
Mhm.
take 10 minutes and then it's going into an hour, how do you, and you also have things on your calendar, how do you handle that situation?
I think in that regard, just like if the user is in front of you, so and then you are trying to fix an issue and already just like what you said, you've told the user, oh, it is going to take this time, and now it's going beyond. So I think it is good you just explain to you. In fact, at times you have to. At times it's good you explain it to them. They might probably not understand, but for the fact that you're communicating with them at that level, at that time, letting them that, oh, this thing. This is what I was trying to do. I was trying to go do this, click on this, and do that. But for some, I mean, for one thing, for one reason or the other, it's not responding to me. I don't know really why. So I really want to just take my time, go. I want to just take my time and just see what's really happening. And if it's something I cannot resolve, I maybe just speak to my colleagues and then we'll see what we can do. So can you just maybe spare me like more 30 minutes, or do you mind, maybe you want to go for coffee or you want to go for, just that communication, just communicate, have that rapport, because the person is standing right in front of you and they are keeping quiet, they're just watching you, and you are already stranded, you're already stranded, it's not going the way to go. So definitely you just have to, because if you don't at that level, you might start, even you yourself might start getting panicking, and most users, these users, they have this psychological mind, they know when you are struggling. So
Yeah,
if they're in front
yeah,
of you and you're struggling, so they will know. So it's better you quickly just communicate with them, and they will really appreciate that than for you to just keep on trying the same thing and nothing is, they are still
expecting different results.
going back on loops and all those things like that. Yeah. So it's the
Like
the
like
most
what
important is just communication.
Yeah, like what we are doing now, we thought it was going to get to the end. Though deleting sometimes is not like the best option for us. Would have been for us to sit down and see what is happening, troubleshoot it. But because this is a live event and this is a break and fix environment, there is nothing really like a production environment where anything actually have to, get bad. We have to, okay, let's go back and start from the beginning. So communication, like Steven mentioned, is very important. So I had worked with global clients, and one thing that they appreciate so much is that ability for you to carry them along with what is happening. And where don't expect that then they expect you to know everything. So
Yeah,
you see
sure.
the idea of bringing up like collaboration in the communication, like, okay, I need to have a rapport with my colleague just so we
Yeah.
can look at what is, yeah, I've not experienced this before, but I think it's something to learn from. I can take this to my colleagues and we can sit back together and look at it. Can you give me more time so I can have this conversation and come back to you? And then every reasonable user will say yes. But if they
Yeah.
are frustrated, they may say, no, I need this thing to be working now. In that case, um, you have to put yourself in the user's shoe first by saying that I will feel the same way if I were in the same situation with you. But I know that you have some other things that you may want to catch up with, and I know this is holding those things from working. I will encourage you to hold, and then if it's possible and the user is insisting and doesn't want to go, you can decide to step up to your pod, your team, put a phone call across, call somebody on Teams, and then try to ask questions about what is happening.
Yeah.
And in my recent experience, I see co-pilots to be very helpful to me. So when I have such issues happening, I sometimes will use my phone to take a screenshot of what is happening, um, of that on that case. And I think Copilot on the mobile has this OCR, or this optical character recognition. It
Yeah.
can help me read and tell me what to do most times. So I remember the user was having an issue with using macros on Excel recently, and he has tried a lot of things that he wanted to try, just not working. And I've also tried to do like the normal thing I would have done normally. I It also did not work. I tried to go to search from the web and see how I could help. I could not get a direct answer, but when I just typed the direct message on Copilot, it was able to quickly tell me what was going on, and I was able to quickly use that to resolve that issue. So I would suggest that yes, use multiple tools, but like Steven mentioned, when you are nervous, the user tend to know that you are. And then I'm not saying pretend if you are, but if it's getting to that extent, you may want to look for help. So you may need to
Yeah.
go reach out for help. And if the user gives you the chance to go ahead and do whatever you want to, then you can reach out to colleagues, use different search engines. The AIs are now everywhere. Use AIs to assist yourself. Reach out to people within your pod. And communities too can be very helpful in some
Yeah.
cases. But
Yeah,
when
there are
you're
all these
trying,
WhatsApp. If you belong to all this WhatsApp communities, because there are some I belong to, some they are at work and they are facing that issue, and they just come there and just this that this, and you see somebody giving them solution, and they are happy and everybody. So that belonging to community too is one of, I think, is this one thing people need to really take serious, even in this 2025 we are going to. Community is very, 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 very important. Belong to a community in your career, either you're an IT person or you're an HR. It's very, very important. It helps a lot. It reduces the stress for you when you're in the community.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, for example, you jump on a community too, but then I must mention again that if you want to ask question in community, try to keep off anything that
Yeah.
is private in
Listening.
that request. Yeah, so that you
Yeah.
don't go and blow your organization detail open, taking screenshots of
Yeah.
identifiable information and putting them on the chat to see. So you should be able, in the midst of that frustration, you should be able to discern what is supposed to go out for questions and what should not go out for questions so that you don't go and expose your organization infrastructure on the public domain, right? So that's very important too.
Mhm.
So I think that's where maturity comes to play. Maturity in the sense that yes, you are frustrated, but that should not affect you to the extent where you don't actually know what decisions to take at that point. So because when it becomes, if the user is coming to you, it means it cannot resolve the issue. Then if you are now more frustrated than the user, then I don't know who is going to help anyone in that situation. So you have to we have to be very careful making use of communities, even making use of AI as well, because you can't copy the direct message from your organization if it is private to your organization. I told you I took a screenshot. Yes, for issues like this, I could take a screenshot. Let's say, for example, the guy that was having issue with macros, the part of Excel that he has open is probably client's information. So I should be careful while taking such a screenshot if I have to take a screenshot. But I can take care of the error message alone and type it in instead of taking screenshot of like a sensitive environment, uploading it on an AI tool. I see that is one of the reasons why a lot of organizations have disabled some open AI resources in their network so that people don't go and copy information to train the model for people outside to use, because the information of the organization is supposed to be discretionary when it comes to sharing. So they have to be mindful of what they are sharing at any instant in time.
Yeah, just like what you said, make use of this AI too. And I think one thing I just want to buttress in that regards is like most of this, all these AI tools we are seeing. Like let me just digress a little bit. Like when people are complaining that all this AI they are taking our jobs, oh they're not, oh the AI is not taking. one day you should know that all those things, all those information you are seeing, yeah, is somebody that is putting them there. They don't just
Yeah,
develop, they crawl into that place. So AI is not taking anyone's job. It's just all this co-pilot is just to make things easy. Okay, just for example, I want to create a presentation on Active Directory beginners, and I need slide. I've been busy all day from Monday to Tuesday, and I don't even have time to create my slide. So with Copilot, I can just go there, put it there, and Copilot will bring out resources for me. And it's something I already know, so I can just quickly get the slide I have and then edit what I need to edit, and then yes, and then make use of it. It's not AI that will teach whatever that will do the
teacher.
presentation. So mine is just to go there and say, AI, okay, give me this thing, and then the AI give it to me, and then I edit to suit my own taste, and then I'll present it. So it's not that has actually reduced my stress to go and sit down creating the slides from beginning, slide one, put the whole effect, all the formatting, all those things like that. So AI will do
Yeah,
this thing for you, and then we still need to also play your own part in it from what AI is
that
giving to you.
that's why the principle of responsible AI still say that you should confirm that information that you are about to push
Yeah.
out there. And every time AI gives you information, there's always a disclaimer or needs to say AI contents are not always correct. So
Yes.
so even the developers of those AIs know that sometimes it goes haywire, and it is
Uh,
you that has to now carry out that information and filter what you need and then
mhm.
put it into use. But while trying to feed information to a system to get an output, remember that you have to be responsible enough to know what you are putting there. And
Yeah.
so one thing that is so unique, one thing that is so important that we take note of is that when you have a content that you have typed or a document that you have written, if you are giving it to an AI to rewrite it for you, that means you are losing the patency of that document. At that point, you are no longer the author. So
Hmm.
so you have to be, let's say for example, you want to describe how to install Windows Server on a Windows 10 machine like what we are doing right now. You should be careful enough so that when you are rephrasing your statements and this is a book that you want to publish. So as at the time you copy your book and give it to AI to say, help me reorganize this, yes, it's going to give you what you want. But know that at that point, the output is no longer original and you are no longer the source of that information. And if you take it for review for publishing, it may not scale through because at that point you had used the AI language has entered into that document and you are no longer the original author. So that is the easiest way you can lose patency to a document that you have written, except you just want to write for people to learn without you earning from what you are writing. And that's very important that we take note of. So with the patience that we preached, we are still here. Um,
Yes.
and then it's still loading. So I think this time, hopefully, we scale through with our Windows 10. But if it still does not, then I want to believe that it is the OS that I'm using, but it's the same OS I used the previous night when I was working on this preparation for this live event. But let's see what happens. It's getting things ready for us. So if you are watching, this should not scare you. It's just so you know, it is nothing different from the first step that we've taken. It is not that Windows 10 is really very stressful to install, but it is just one of those experiences that you can have so that when this is looking a bit scary, it is not. Please just take it easy, one step at a time. Allow the system to get the things ready for you. You don't have to stress yourself. You just have to calm down and put up that time to wait. Like we mentioned earlier, the ability to start, or the patience to start all over at times, or the patience to troubleshoot issue is actually the problem, not the problem itself. So there may just be an underlining statement that you need to read that you've not read that is making you to go around cycles. So if I still have that experience that I have with error showing up, I'm definitely going to sit back after this call and try to see why that is happening. But you see, if I scale through now and I get to the end, it is good. I've achieved my aim, but I've not learned anything from it because I did not take my time to go and look at the previous error that we had. So red lines, yearnings when you are installing applications or when you're trying to learn something new is not to scare you away, but it is to let you know what you've not known before. So that's one thing to mention for those of us who would want to practice what we are doing now on the call. And then if you also need the OS, of course, you can go to Microsoft website to download the Windows Server or the Windows 10 operating system that you can use to set up yours. Hmm. So this is that point where it's supposed to give us the user of the PC again.
Yeah, at that time you see this just a moment in computer, you think it's just something that just a moment can take another 30 minutes, 30, 20 minutes.
So one thing about live events is sometimes some things can just plan you so that when you need them, they will not function well that time. To just see how you can get frustrated and leave. So, but let's see how persistent we are. We're already here, so I'm just going to put it again in the region. So let's see. All these are not supposed to take longer time again, but I'm wondering why they are taking a lot of time to load. So I tell you, these are things that I did offline, like within minutes, and I was done. But you see, we are here live and things are happening. So if
Yeah,
they still throw that error that we had, then we may just
I just adjourn
have
it.
to
Yeah.
pause it and then we can come back to this some other time. But let's just see what happens now. I know of several times that I've prepared something like this, did it on my own, delete, do, and then hop on a live session and the next thing you see is things start turning against you.
Mm. No, life section is not, it's not really that easy to come live, because some people don't want to speak, and some people they know it but they don't know how to like table it down, so when you
Yeah,
and you're in a place, you're just speaking like you're speaking to yourself. You don't know who is listening to you. You don't know who is.
and
Yeah.
especially when things are not working the way you had planned it to
Hmm.
work, it become a bit frustrating, and how you going to end it will be like a very big challenge to an individual.
Yeah.
So ideally, this particular stage is not supposed to take a long time. Mhm.
I think later today I'm going to be with Jerry Solomon. So is in London. So we are going out later today.
Oh, that's cool. I watched his
Yeah.
status and he was doing a lot of games at night.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
He called
beautiful.
me. He called me yesterday when I was coming from work. So see you
So
later
please
today.
just remember to send us pictures. That's all we can see for now at least.
Yes. Yeah.
Try to take some pictures and send across to us. It's going to be a great outing, I guess.
Yeah.
Mhm. Is it that you're going to have like ABC of cloud hangouts in London or something, or just you and Jerry? Or
Uh,
how?
no, I think it's something. Yeah, I don't know if probably other
Okay,
people are coming. We just want to view some places.
okay,
Yeah,
makes sense.
let's go for fun. To wrap up the year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very important.
yeah.
It's very important. So we'll just wait. We have 10 minutes more to give to this, and wherever we're able to get to in 10 minutes, I think we're still having that issue, which is
So I
what
think
I'm
it
trying
might
to take into.
maybe it's with the OS, maybe it's the iOS, or if you
So
can
I'm going
check.
to personally take that. You can try or skip for now. So what I would do is I would on my own, I've not seen this before. So that's part of the learning process. I am going to look at this error myself and see how we can possibly resolve it. And then I'll build myself and see how it is because I know I built a lot today, and then they worked as expected. But ideally, if they had come up, then what we would do is to assign the device an IP, and then um, join it to, since it was already connected to the switch here, we can join it to the domain. So this is going to be picked up in subsequent time, just like what we said. When you're having issues like this with customer, you have to let them know that you have to go and make your research. So I've
Sure.
taken a screenshot of the issue. I'm going to paste this in the I'm going to paste it with you on the chat, Steven. You may just want to check out also. I will definitely check this to see why we're having this error. So we will adjourn for now, and then we can come back together. But I hope that you are able to see how to virtualize, how to go and enable Hyper-V, bring Hyper-V up, then set up your virtual switch, create your domain controller, create your server, make it a domain, install the ADDS role, promote it to become a domain controller, and then, yes, that is where we can say we have stopped for now. And then when we pick up the next time, we can tag that one, joining computers to domain in Active Directory
And then
and
maybe,
having it.
maybe you can just span it out to the DHCP one and just do it together.
Yeah. So that's going to be great. So we also showed you how to create user and how to create organizational unit, and I'm sure that that alone is great resource for us today. And we'll run into an issue which we are going to find out, and you're also going to also look at that also to see how you can resolve that. So something went wrong, you can try again or skip OOOB keyboard issue.
I
Try
think it's
again
a
or skip.
keyboard something. Big keys.
Yeah, so we'll just call it a day at this point. And thank you for the 3 hours, almost 3 hours that we have spent on the call, Stephen. So thank you
Yeah,
very much. Yeah.
you're welcome.